To continue with our if-else statement structure, in this section, we will learn more about compound statement. We will learn about one-way selection, and we will learn about nested if-else. To start off, uh, in this statement, in the previous example, this are just a single statement. However, if there are multiple statements, you need to have what we call a block scope or blocking scope. To make use of a blocking scope, usually it is made out of a curly brace. Uh, a block scope, it means that this is the beginning and this is the end of the if-else statement. It means that it is considered as a compound statement, meaning you can add multiple lines on it. So in this case, we can say see out. This is the second line of the true statement. So if we have this, then therefore, if we have this a curly brace, it means that all of this statement is grouped or blocked. So therefore, it is still considered in the if condition. So to test this out, we can say if this is 1, if we run this one, we can see that the second line is also shown. So it means that this is already a blocked or a compound statement. So we can also add this one in our false. By the way, let's try to test this one out. We can see there that it will go to the false statement. It means that we see that it will not show this one. So to do that, again, in the previous one, let me zoom out a little. In the previous one, we can create there a block. And you have to be also very careful because, again, um, this block scopes has its own partner. So in this case, we have this one. It's partner with this. This one is partner with this, and this one is partner with this. You can test it out because if we shut this one down or minimize this one, you can see only the beginning of this if, and also the beginning of this else. Okay, so it means that is the compound statement. So we can say we'll just copy this one, place that one in this. This is already the false statement. So again, you can make use of the different expressions or different relational or logical operators. So we can have this like this. So in that case, it's combination of a variable and a constant. So again, the value there is 6 greater or equal to 9, and since the value there is false, therefore it will go to the else, which is already compounded. So if you run this one, then therefore we can see also the second line of the false statement, wrong spelling statement. Okay, now the next one, we will learn about one-way selection. A one-way selection is very easy. It means that there is no else. It means that there is no false condition, or it means that it will automatically go to your or exit the if-else statement. Okay, so let's say for example, I will create here a document, or a cout command, which is outside of uh, the if-else. So you can see the blocking here. Uh, so we can say this is outside of the if-else. So it means that uh, in grouping, we can see that this command. That's why it's very advisable to indent certain part to indicate that this one is not a group of instructions, and we don't in this case we place this one is not indented because it's part of the main. Supposedly it should be written as this. Now it doesn't matter whether you indent it or not, but it is good practice so that it's much easier to detect or troubleshoot. So we can see here clearly that this one is part of the main and this code is part of the if else code. So you can see if I run this one and since this is false, automatically it will go to the else and also it will run the what is outside. So in this case, this is the outside of the if else. So let's just place there this one so that we have an indentation or we have a new line. Okay, so in a one-way, going back to one-way selection, there is no more else condition. It means that there is no false, and it means that when you run the program, and if it's a false, it will automatically say this is outside of the if else, meaning there is no else or false condition. So that is what we call uh, one-way selection. Now there are lots of ways, or that there are lots of uh, there are lots of ways to make use of this, especially when uh, there are times that a program you don't require a false statement. Okay. Now the next and final topic we will learn about the nested if else. So let's go back into this one. Now a nested if else, from the word nested, it means that there are several if else statements inside the if else statement. So in this case, let's say for example, this is an if else statement having another if else statement inside of the if. If you are confused with that statement, it's just like this. So if I have, so again, a good practice, if I have another if else. So then the nested here is the if else here can be found in the if else. Okay, so it means that again, this is, let's say for example, I will type here this one. Uh, so let's say true, true. This is the true, meaning true of this, and it goes true of this. And if we have here this one, and we say this is true of false. Okay, so it means, let's say for example, I'll just pick this a Boolean expression, and since in this case, in order to fully grasp it, let's say I have this one, write this one also in the, no need in the else, no. So it means that it is an if else having an if else. So it means that this is blocked or grouped. So if we're going to run, it's supposedly run like this, no? Since it is false, then of course it will not. So it will just display if you are going to follow it. It's like going here, then it's false, then it will skip to the else. It will display the false statement, then it will show the second line of the false statement, then it exits the if else, and this is a if else which is outside. Now let's say for example, let's make this one true. So if we run this one, let me turn this one off. If you run this one, we can see now that if we trace the flow of the program, we can see that it goes here, it checks that condition, and that condition is true, therefore it goes here, therefore it will display this one first, so you can see it there. Then next it will display the second line of the true statement, and of course since the statement here is false, then it will go to the false statement. That's why you have here. Then of course after that it will skip over and go to the outside, which is this is the outside of the if else. Okay, so that is a good way or a good illustration of what we call a nested. So this the nested can be found whether, or the second if else can be found in either the if, or it can be found you can, or it can be found in the else statement. No? So this is an if else in the else statement, or it can be both. No? So again, I would highly advise to indent so that it much be easier to spot whether what is the pairing of the if else, and it's much better if you also have a compound statements within those, or a block, to identify which part is grouped to the if and which part is grouped to the else. Okay, so I will show you another one. Usually most of the programs or programmers usually make use of the if else, if else, if else uh, command. What I mean is they usually write it this way. No? Uh, so the structure is basically they always place the if else or in the else. No? So that is why we call it if else, if else, if else, if else. Because if you can see it, say if else, then followed by another if else, then if there is another if else, we can have it here, if else. No? If else statement. So again, it becomes very nested, and that's why it's called a nested. Okay. So there will be lots of examples about if else structures in the programming manual. There is also a flow chart so that you can follow about the if else structure. You can also try the examples in the programming manual, and you can also see the results or the answer of those samples so that you can follow through the different uh, methods or techniques in using the if else.